Y'all ready? Hello and welcome to Co-Parenting Confessions. I am, of course, your host, Alicia Price. And before we get started, I have to give you something to do. You need to like, subscribe, follow, share, all of that good stuff because we want you to stick and stay with Co-Parenting Confessions and we appreciate you. So today we have an amazing episode ahead where we're going to be talking to boy moms. So we're talking about what it means to be the mother of sons and your co-parenting. And as you guys know, I have a son who is soon to be 22. And so all I know is the life and the world of being a boy mom. And I have some amazing guests on the show today that are going to share their experiences. And we're going to just chop it up and welcome you into the world of boy moms. So without further ado, thank you to my wonderful guests. I'm so glad you guys are here today.
Yeah.
Thank you. We're so happy to be here.
Yes.
So I have Nicole Pacini, Pacini. I'm so sorry. Like, how did I do that?
I don't know.
And y'all know each other.
Right. It's my...
She knows.
And I know.
She knows.
Nicole Pacini.
She knows.
What in the world?
She says she knows.
She knows.
Listen, the unbitter bitch.
That's me.
Right? Like in the building, mother extraordinaire, 2 sets of twins.
2.
Listen, knows about this parenting stuff.
Yes.
In the building. And then we have Ms Margaret, who is a radio personality and community activist and mother of 1. And so we have a range, a perspective here of what it's like to be raising young men. And the reason why I wanted to talk about this today is because when you're raising young men and their fathers are not in the household, there's something different that we're up against. And the world would say that we can't raise young men. We need men to raise men, right? But in this case, a lot of times the father is not there 24/7 to have that influence. So we have to step in. So I want to just let the floodgates out today.
They open.
About what it means to be a boy mom. And also, I guess really to be a boy mom and you're raising young Black men also.
Yes, because that's a totally different conversations. One thing to be a boy mom, but a mom to Black boys?
Yes. Yes.
Whole different ballgame.
So the first thing that I want to say or want to ask is, what has your experience been like calling yourself a boy mom? Like when you hear that, what comes up for you?
First. You looking at me first?
Right. Is it the cozy feelings? Is it the immediately you can smell their room? What happens when you hear when you're like, I'm a boy mom? What is that for you?
I've never even thought of that because I'm a boy mom and a girl mom. So for me, I'm just a mom. I've never separated the two.
Yep.
But it's definitely different parenting and how you view your daughters versus how you view your sons. I have 3 sons, 3 daughters. And my sons, I speak about the youngest ones because they're the last to be raised. They're 19 now. So that is very
19.
Yes. And so when the thought that comes to mind right now when you say that is them saying things to me like they have a girlfriend.
See, I'm not even ready.
And I'm like, you got a what? And they're 19. I had my first child when I was 18.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at them like, what y'all doing? What are you doing? What you have a girlfriend? Like, oh, okay. So that's, to me, is if my daughter was to say she had a boyfriend, I don't think I would react that way at 19. But the boys, I'm like, okay, now.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
So your thought initially about being a boy mom comes into more of a protective mode.
It's not even protective.
No?
It's more inquisitive. It's more, is this girl that you're seeing even worthy of you? Is this the right one for you? I shouldn't say worthy, but you know what I mean?
Yeah. Being concerned about their discernment.
Yeah. And then I don't want them to be the boys that have ran through all the girls.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I think about that like, well, wait a minute. And then I have to go into, well, you got a mother, you got sisters, so, you need some etiquette help. You got to treat them nicely. You got to open doors. You got to, do those types of things. Man, Ma, we know.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. So that,
for you.
Yeah.
Margaret, what comes to mind for you when you're like, I'm a boy mom?
Yeah, I mean, I just have the one. I feel, I feel like though I'm better as a boy mom. I can't imagine having a little me because I was. But when especially in my middle school years, I used to tell my mom, I'd be like, there's definitely times when you probably should have popped me and you didn't.
Yeah.
Thank you. But you wouldn't have been wrong. But I just think I do better as a boy mom. I definitely feel like there's a special bond with boys and mom, particularly. And we kind of talked about this a little prior to we starting the conversation, but between, I think, Black boys and their mom. My mom used to always say, she's a big NFL fan, and she used to always talk about whenever you see them up there, they're always thinking they mamas. It's always the mom. It's so I just think that it's different. I think I'm just better. I think maybe because I don't know. I kind of have a little tough love side to me, and so I think maybe that's why. But there's definitely a special connection between me and my son.
Yeah.
I think that we just share, and I enjoy being a boy mom because I think boys are fun. And sometimes when I'm talking to my friend and she's talking about, she has a girl, and sometimes I'd be like,
couldn't be me.
Yeah. But then some of the things that you mentioned, though, are thoughts I've had, though, as well. And so I think there's also a little more, I don't know if fear is necessary, but precaution in certain things and that protective.
Yeah.
I'm very quick to protect. So I guess for me, it's all that.
Yeah.
Mama bear for sure.
Yeah.
I think.
I cannot imagine not having a son, at least having had a son first. And so now we know shop is closed. I'm not having any more children. But I definitely think I've heard more women when they have sons be like, I'm a boy mom. I should have had a son versus being like, yay, I still kind of want a daughter. Like you get real comfortable with what it means to, not stress out about clothes and, just personality type things where boys kind of just roll with the flow a little bit.
Definitely.
So you just inspired me to say something because, like I said, I mentioned the younger ones because they're the last to be parented. But my firstborn was my son. And so there's a different dynamic with us versus all of the other kids. He's the oldest son. He's the one that has my grandchildren. None of the other children have children. So he's the one that left the house first. He's the one that everybody kind of looks up to. And so I always say my son raised me.
Yeah. See, and it sets the tone.
That is so
that
true.
Sets the tone.
Because I feel like my son, it's like I understand when people say we grew up together.
Yep.
Because I definitely feel that way. I definitely feel like if I have another kid, they'll have a totally different mom. But I never understood that. And I so know what you mean. I'm like, I totally get that because, it's a whole new growth period for you.
Is.
And I'm glad my son gives me a lot of grace. Now, that's probably another conversation for a different day. I'm sure that's not something he's thinking in his mind.
What do you mean by that he gives you grace?
I think for me, I compare myself a lot to my mom. So my mom to me is the ultimate mother. So I'm very hard on myself, and I feel like my son kind of reminds me of who I am. Like if I'm talking down on myself, he'll be like, "No, you're not. Like you're not." I'll be like, "I look a mess." "No, you don't, Mom." Like stop saying that. And so I think it just is like, some of that affirmation that I'm not obviously expecting my kid to give me, but you get it. Yeah, but I get it. And so it kind of allows me to give myself grace because in my mind, I'm like, if I'm not doing this and I'm not doing this right.
I love that.
That's so real. Like I wouldn't have even, I think, thought about that, but my son has always done that for me. Whenever, and it's actually what changed my negative self-talk because if I would say something like, oh, I need to lose weight or I'm on a diet, like I was constantly, announcing that I'm on a diet, so we're not going here. Or I'm buying this now because I'm on a diet. I need to lose this amount of weight, And my son would always be like, Mom, you're fine. Mom, you're good. Like, no, you look nice, And so because he kept correcting my negative self-talk, it made me more aware of what I was saying. So I stopped doing that. So no, that's good.
That's sweet.
Yeah. So okay,
boys are sweet.
We got to jump in to the nuts and the bolt, the nitty gritty.
Let's get into it.
How would, for lack of a better way of saying it, how would your baby daddy describe you?
Now, why'd you?
Dang.
As
this ain't even
a boy mom. Like, how would he describe you?
I thought you meant in general.
Well, listen, we could go there too. But I'm wondering, like, what do you think the father of your children would say about you as a mother raising this young man?
I think they would say, this is what they would say. They would say, thank you.
Yes.
They would say, thank you. You've done a great job.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what they would say. If they said anything different, it would be a lie.
Okay, period. You heard that? Okay. In case for some reason something different gets said, you heard it here.
And it's a lie.
A lie.
It's a lie.
Sorry.
I think similar to that.
Yeah.
I mean, they definitely couldn't say, that I'm not a great parent and all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
I think they would say I'm definitely like on it, as in like, and this could be a good or bad thing. I'll explain why. But like, I'm almost like hyper vigilant, right? I think because I'm an activist and stuff, I'm very like, if I even think my son is being mistreated, or we had like a whole situation with a teacher last year that went viral. But and so I'm very like, no, I'm nipping this in the bud now.
Yeah.
Now I say sometimes that could be a good or a bad thing, because sometimes that constant like being on go, you know what I mean? Just for your own mental and emotional health, it can just be very draining and send you on a tailspin. But I would say, I think that's probably one of my greatest qualities as a parent, because I'm not gonna let nothing slide. So I think like that, like he if he were to say I'm not a good parent, they both be out here lying in the streets, right? But I also think that too, like, oh yeah, she's not playing games.
Yeah.
But I'm learning to kind of find some balance with that, because sometimes it can be like, okay, maybe it wasn't all that.
Yeah.
So
that deep.
it's the coddling of
That's what
the
I was
baby
too.
daddy.
Yeah.
That's what you say,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
baby daddy. It's the coddling through the process and not trying to figure things out, but needing your support every step of the way to figure things out. Like,
why we all go?
these are not
'Cause it's
just
so
my
true.
responsibilities. These are our responsibility. So I'm gonna need you to not want to be coddled by me to help you figure
I'm gonna
this
need you to be the
out.
parent. So you're never off. Like, right? You're always somehow having to run the place. Like, it just gets exhausting.
Yeah. When I think about what my son's father would say about me as a boy mom, I feel like he would be like really like, you got it. Like, you did it. I appreciate you. And again too, thank you. Thank you for having the grace and giving me space to figure it out. Like, I didn't necessarily know what I needed to do as a boy mom. But I just knew as Jaseer's mom what I was gonna do. And that's just how I showed up. But the reason I asked that question is because I think that in society, a lot of people say women can't raise boys. And so when we get to ask the men, how have the women done? Sometimes they say things like, she coddles him, he's too sensitive because, she's, always protecting him, and, those kinds of things. Like, we have a tendency to be that mama bear. Whereas, girls get to kind of figure shit out a little bit more than we give our sons the opportunity to.
That is true.
Like I remember, and I think about this all the time. I want things done a certain way in my house.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's times where I didn't give my son the opportunity to necessarily learn how to do it my way because I just would be like, you know what? It's just quicker if I just do it.
Yeah.
It's just quicker if I do it. So there's some things that I know if I had a daughter where she would have just had to figure it out. It'd have been like, listen, girl, I said, but I have had to think back on like, how is there any way that maybe I've hindered him because I've just done things my way instead of making him figure it out.
I would say,
and I'm sorry to interrupt you. And I do know that if his father could think a little deeper, he would say that. Like there are things that she takes over and has done for him that he would, absolutely tell him to do on his own.
Yeah, it's a hard one for me sometimes. I mean, what I would say is, with my son, it's not, I guess, he's already sensitive for one, so that was already going to be there. But I do think sometimes I have to watch myself so I'm not projecting certain things onto him. So that's why I mean, some of those times when I'm like, oh no, sometimes I feel like he might have been thinking about it, but now he's thinking about it. Now he's like taking on my anxiety and my stress about it. And so I think for me, that has been a challenge or something I've thought of over the years. And as, I've had to have more conversations or advocate more, but then sometimes I'm like, I don't want to, he could be okay with a situation. And now he's like, oh yeah, I don't want to do this. But he's like literally just repeating what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I don't want to project certain stress, anxiety. So a little different, but that's what I think of when it comes to him of like, I don't want to project that. And then, I mean, I'm very clear that there are just certain things that obviously as a woman that I'm not going to be able to teach. I'm not going to be able to understand. And like when you talk about kind of giving that the opportunity and that grace, sometimes I don't.
Yep.
I don't do that. So yeah, that one's always kind of
Give
tough
grace
for
to
me.
who?
My son.
Yeah. To your son. Okay.
To just like, I mean, just
to
like being a kid. Yeah.
Right. To just figure it out.
Being a
Or you
kid.
just rather just jump in
and I'll just, or I just expect it to be this
Yeah.
the first time, and then like I was talking to my best friend today. I'm like, I gotta remember what it was like when I was a kid. I'm 36. I'm not doing everything right the first time or the second. But so I gotta check myself sometimes, So
yeah.
you
Well, when I think of like, in this space of being a boy mom, how has being a mother to a young man or a male changed your perspective on men in general? Or has it not? Like your tolerance to men, or if you think about them in a certain way now that you have this perspective from raising one? Yeah.
It was interesting what you said earlier, Nicole, because you were talking about how you were talking about like dating and being like, I want to make sure you're not, play it. And my son's only 9, but those are the thoughts that I've had. So it's I don't necessarily like see men in a different light, but I'm like, I want to make sure you're not this type of man.
Yeah.
But I will say, even kind of back to like when I was talking about him being sensitive, right? Like it reminded me of that. And in that, even though here I am, I talk about this stuff all the time and being okay with your feelings and whether you're male or woman, but even I have to check myself sometimes on like if he's crying, about something because, I might be like, man, like stop,
Yeah.
But if he was a girl, it might be a little different. So I think for me, it's reminded me, you know what I mean, that like.
To have a little bit more emotional intelligence around just him being a human being.
Yes, and then just that, I guess, really, applies to men in general. Because sometimes I'll forget, and it's going to sound crazy that they do go through stuff too, And so it's kind of like those reminders and seeing it from a young age too. It's like, okay, no, there does need to be space.
Yeah. For me in my work, because I do a lot of work with single parents and I get to see men who are struggling through what it means to co-parent or not being in the household with their children, I have that perspective.
Mm.
And so I always bring that into the picture. I feel like now I understand more why men aren't there than I would have if I wasn't in this space. And so I'm really conscious of making sure my son understands like he has a support system. If something's happening in a relationship that you don't feel comfortable with, that you have the right to speak up about those things. It's not her way or the highway, type of a situation. So I'm constantly teaching and training around that, like his own self-efficacy and not, thinking that you just have to bow down to women. But it has made me personally look at men different because now I have this awareness of like, well, who was your mama? And what was your mama saying to you?
That's the number one
because
thing.
now I know the things that I talk to my son about and that I've taught him or prepared him for. And so I'm hyper aware of what you probably was lacking or what you got too much of, So those things are really front of mind for me, especially in the dating space.
Yeah. I wanted to add to that. When you have sons, you date differently.
Yes.
You don't want to, and it's not a girl mom or boy mom thing. I just think you can't have a man in your life that your sons are not going to be able to respect.
Okay. Because it's going to be
so he has to be able to, if you're dating, this person has to be able to respect your children too, your sons too. It's a mutual respect. But sometimes, depending on the age, it's gonna be a problem. Soon on sight.
Yep. Who is you?
Yeah.
You like my mom?
Yeah. So to get that validation from your sons is like special. Like, okay.
That's real.
Because there's a mutual respect there, and then they think like, okay, my mom is good.
Yeah.
I got my mom is good.
Like I approve. Yeah. I am. So I guess, it's fair to say I'm dating. And not exclusively, but
I was wondering when I was going to come up. I was going to wait till after
I'm
show.
Dating,
but
And so I have spoken about this person in particular to my son, who he hasn't met him, but I've said, I really like him. And I remember very recently, my son said, well, I'll be the judge of that.
Oh, I thought he was going to say, well, what do you like about him? He said, I'll be the judge.
He was like, I'll be the judge of that. And and this is the thing. He's always been very open and happy. Like if I'm like, I like this person, he's like with it. He's not like, I don't know if I'm gonna like him. He's like, if you like him, I think I'm gonna like him. But now for some reason, I think he's at this space of like, at our ages and stages in our lives, I think he's like, if she likes somebody now, this could really be like the person, or this could be really serious. Also, I'll say, I feel like I'm getting that same energy from my dad the older I get too. So I don't know if that's just a male thing.
Like
but
the same thing as like, okay, I'll be the judge of this.
Not necessarily the judge, but like, okay, so if you're talking about somebody right now,
gotcha.
then this must be somebody. So
because you're mentioning it.
So what is this?
We might see him at Thanksgiving,
right? Like,
show
like
up.
Okay, we need to, but I think he now feels like I need to, say
did he ask
on.
to meet him?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, a couple times. I haven't done that yet, but he's been like, yeah, I want to meet this guy. Like, so when do I get to meet him? Yeah, he's all in the business.
And then you think if he meets him and if he's like, I don't know, then how do you think you navigate that?
I don't think he'll be like, I don't know. The trepidation for me right now is meeting him, and then if I change my mind, having to be like, yeah, so
it didn't work out,
ain't
buddy.
Really around. He ain't gonna be around.
Yeah, shorty had to go.
Buddy is,
I don't know, But he's totally invested.
Okay.
In wanting to be like, I want my mom to be happy, and I want to know who this person is.
Yeah, that's good though.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
That's good. Yeah, my son, he don't want me to date nobody, but he's 9, so
Really?
Oh yeah, he don't want.
Has he met anybody?
I mean, he's
Kind of, sort of.
I would say when you met them though, it wasn't like this is mom's boyfriend. Now there was a guy I was dating who he told people was my boyfriend, but that wasn't. Yeah, he was cool with that. But it's interesting, yeah, because as he gets older, now he's like,
yeah,
he don't want.
So how do you talk to your sons about women? How are we like preparing them for relationships?
This is hilarious.
Especially when they know we're not with their fathers.
So I have, my children.
I
know because
that we have.
Is my mic still on?
Yes.
Okay. So I have to be respectful of certain things that I say because they're adults, right? And so my children don't even, they're like, I can't even go anywhere without somebody saying, "Oh, you're Nicole's, my son. You're Nicole's daughter." Like, you don't even know them people, So I have to be, very cautious of how I speak about the children who are adults. However, as a parent, as a mom, as a boy mom, it does strike me as something that feels a little different to think about. Okay. The STD rate out here is
very high,
extremely off the charts. So those are the things that I think about, and I still, you kind of give them a little nudge here and there. But just a safety protocol overall. Like, if they're traveling, I need the itinerary. I need 2 phone numbers of 2 of the individuals that you're going with. And they all know now, so it's a habit. But just the thing, like I said, I don't want the thought of just being sorry, I'm just saying. You know what I mean? I'm just the thought of that.
I don't want you to be a hoe. Okay?
Yeah,
please don't be a hoe.
Just don't be
out here slinging.
And you know how I am. I'm gonna keep it really 100 with them. Like, you know what's going on out here.
Yeah.
You know what. You have to. I talk to my children.
Yes.
You know what's out here in these streets. None of that ain't no good for you.
Yeah.
But. You make your own decisions.
Oh, this is good.
I feel like that's all you can do, right?
But are we talking to them about women, about relationships, dating, interacting with the opposite sex, or whomever they're interested in, right? Are we talking to them based on what we know of them or based on what we remember about their dad's behaviors?
Probably both. Probably both. So I have, I knew some things would come up today. I probably never talked about before, but like with my twin boys, sons, with my twin sons, and we talked about this a little bit in the hallway before we came in here. They were born 2 years after they were born. I filed for divorce from their father. I feel like I need a tissue.
Really?
I feel like my nose is running. Do you see it?
No.
Okay.
Not do you see it?
I do. It is. It's like chilly in here. Okay, I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
But I lost my train of thought. Oh, so they were born. Thank you.
Got the tissue.
You gotta love production.
Yes.
I know.
That actually was a cute little.
Okay.
Little aesthetic there.
Okay. So 2 years after they were born,
you filed for divorce.
Yes.
Yep.
And I was in a situation with their father that was, it was domestic, the reason why we got a divorce.
Yeah.
And so we co-parented. Speaking of co-parenting, we co-parented through a restraining order.
Yes. Yep. Okay.
When they were 2 years old, we co-parented through a restraining order for 1 year. And so part of us getting a divorce and trying to figure out parenting time is where, the bitterness can kick in for some women.
Yep.
Like, okay, this happened between us.
Right.
Fuck you. You can't, can't, you ain't getting the kids. You just...
Absolutely.
So I was totally against being that person. This happened between us.
Yep.
I got my little visuals. This happened between us. That does not give me the right to deny access to your father.
Yeah.
And we're going to co-parent this way. And we did have some things that were written up.
Yeah.
That we agreed to stick to. Just because it was easier.
Yeah.
This is what the paper says, and this is what we're going to do. And we did that for years, from the time they were 3 years old to the time that they were 11 when they decided they wanted to go live with their father.
Yeah. And Nicole, thank you for sharing that, because I feel like there are going to be viewers or people who are experiencing what does it mean to co-parent in the midst of those types of things, and how do you actually still do that, and that it can be possible to just follow an agreement. Like if you cannot communicate with the person, having that in writing and looking to that document to keep you on track.
Yep. Ladies, if you can relate, just don't put that extra stress on yourself. Just don't even do it. It's not even worth it. Preserve your sanity. And if what works on the paper works, let that work.
Yes.
And then you just, so when we had the restraining order, we did a pickup drop off. With a family member. We did a pickup drop off, and they were 2 years old at the time. So they couldn't communicate their needs, and so we had to use a journal and transfer information through the journal. They ate at this time, they taken this medication, they're doing this and they're doing that. That was my life for a whole year. Because of that restraining order. So when our divorce was final, I didn't think twice about it. For one, I had forgave my ex-husband. So it was I forgave him because I had to. If we're going to be able to co-parent, if we're going to be able to be civil with each other, I can't, every time I see you,
you can't
rolling my eyes, twisting my head, like I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to make it so easy for all of us. And so I set the tone for that very early on, and it worked. And it worked on the paper until my son started saying what they wanted. It might be my weekend, but they might say, "Mom, we want to stay at Dad's house." I wasn't gonna
right.
I shouldn't be doing all of that, but you know what I'm saying, because it could be like that. Like, no, you can't. Because this is the time that you're supposed to be over here. You go to your dad's house when you're supposed to be with your dad, and you stay over here when you're supposed to stay over here. Okay, you want to stay over your dad's house? Yeah, we'll just stay over for this weekend, and we'll go to school from there on Monday. And then you could just pick us up from school. Okay. I never, ever, ever went against what my son said that they wanted to do when it came to their father.
Having that flexibility is so important, because it's building their autonomy. It's helping them to be able to say and trust that if I tell my mom how I'm feeling or what I need, that it'll be respected, and that, my voice matters. For me, when I think about how I have interacted with my son versus who his dad is, I remember saying to my son, and I have always said to him, so if he walked in this room right now and you said, what are 2 things that your mom doesn't like? She will tell you a liar and a cheater. Now, I never just started with, your daddy is a liar and a cheater. But it was kind of like, here is a value that I need to set with you right now, because you are part your daddy. And I want you to know that in this house, we have 0 tolerance for this type of behavior. What I now know is, even though I didn't say that that's what your dad did, he could only assume, right? And so now, of course, when I'm coaching people and I'm sharing with people, like being mindful of the ways that we present information to our kids and how we're, trying to teach them things and making sure that it's not helping to frame how they see their parent. I know for a fact my son was like, okay, yes, I guess my dad's a liar. He must have cheated.
For sure.
And thankfully, we've been able to talk through that, and it didn't make him see his dad different. But I also am aware, and from just this podcast and people that I have come in contact with, as mothers, we have so much power and control over the way our sons view their dads based on what we say to them about them, whether or not we support them to be with them, spend time with them. And so some men that are struggling to have good and vital relationships with their sons, it is because the mama is like, your daddy ain't shit.
Oh,
And
I
not
waited.
because he ain't a good dad, but because he wasn't a good man to me. So yeah.
I wish my mom would talk shit a little bit more about my dad, to be honest with you. My mom was definitely, and I commend her for not, like, my mom had told me at a young age, like, you'll get to a point where you can make, you know, your own decision on where you want, you know, your relationship or non-relationship with your dad to go.
Yep.
Her goal was always to make sure that I knew my dad because she never knew her dad.
Okay.
And, you know, there are some times, though, and, like, I'm not saying I would change it, but I'm like, you definitely would have been well within your right. You know what I mean? To, and sometimes, even when I look at, and I'm like kind of stuttering now because I don't want to say something's going to sound bad with my mom, but I think sometimes in my co-parenting situation, I carried that into that and not sometimes just holding them accountable or being too accommodating, you know? And so while I'm glad that she was like, you know, you're basically, you can see for yourself and you can make that decision in whichever way. I'm going to support it, you know, either way. But in some ways for me, I think that kind of like, okay, well, I guess they're doing this. So, you know, I'm just going to roll it, or I'm trying to keep the peace and all that.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'd be like, sometimes I wish you kind of would just like this.
Like, and it kind of like,
you know, I love you, Mom. I'm not trying to, you know.
But Margaret, I feel like what you're saying too is not even so much like bash my dad, but as a mother, I just need to see you have that confidence and standing up for yourself, and then I wouldn't have carried some of the ways that I didn't do that. You know, like model those things for me in a different way.
Right, because there's just certain, like, that's why I had to share a little bit earlier. I too had a situation of a restraining order. Now it was different because there was no co-parenting. My son was in the restraining order.
Okay.
So it was, you could not be around both of us.
Yep.
But I think in my situation it was different. It wasn't domestic. It wasn't that. But I think there were just several times when I should have put my foot down a little bit more, you know, and not been afraid to, like, I'm thinking I'm trying to keep the peace or trying to whatever, and this ended up being a whole mess. I mean, the restraining order went on for 3 years. And so that's why I just think kind of like what you were saying, like, just seeing that confidence of like, no, like I feel like my mom has always been someone definitely who valued herself, but when it came to men, that's what I learned to pacify, you know what I mean, or accept that bare minimum. So yeah.
Which also, and we ain't gonna dive too deep into this because I'm feeling the energy from Cole, and I want Cole to say something. But the coach in me just came to
coach
exactly what you're saying. Is that part of you where you're like, I don't give my son grace because now you've learned I don't want to give grace because when you give too much grace, you get walked all over. So now I'm teaching him in a harder way. And that's what you're realizing now is like, you know what? I don't need to necessarily project that onto my baby.
Right.
As much as,
I'm in a very reflective season and like unpacking a lot of things. And so I'm having those moments of where did this really stem from? And so much for me stems from my dad. I mean, I'm sure, you know, from all of us, you know, your childhood, but in the ways that it's showing up in my relationships or it's showing up parenting, just all the different ways that shows up. And I think it's really important, like we've all been talking about how what are you projecting? Like when, you know, we're talking about like for me, I think about, I saw a post recently, right? And it was like, one day someone's going to, if you're a boy mom, one day someone's going to say, F you and your mama. And I thought, at first I was like, well, dang, what'd I do? But it made me think though, too, is like how I am is probably what he's going to attract. So I think about that as well, right? Because they always say that about women. They always say all girls marry their dads, and it sounds crazy, you know, if you don't understand the context.
Yeah.
But I think about that too with him. So for me, because he's 9, so we're not really talking about the dating stuff yet. I know I kind of went back a couple questions, but sometimes I have to think like, dang, like I don't want to be like this because I don't want him to go like get
and
a woman like
that.
this.
Yeah.
Who's doing some of the, you know, there's certain things I'm like, yeah, I want, and then there's certain other things where I'm like, I gotta really like check that.
Yes.
You know, because you ain't gonna be talking to my son. Like that. But I look at his dad, I'm gonna blast him a little bit. And some of the women, you know what I mean? And
Oh.
That's a good one.
And I see his mama. And I'm going to keep it real.
One.
There's been times, too, where I've even seen it. You know what I mean? So they might be a little more crazy or whatever, but I can't sit here and lie and be like, there are certain things that I saw in his mom, like, damn. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like, is that like me?
Because it kind of makes you think, though.
Yeah,
like, I can look at all these others and be like, they were crazy as hell. And that's a part of how this restraining order came to be, because it...
Yeah.
But then I got to be like, but what was it?
Yeah.
That was...
Were there similarities?
What were there similarities that you saw in her that you also saw that made you... Yeah, so I mean it's a whole nother.
Cole, what? Tell me what's going on.
I know what you feeling. You talking about the girlfriend?
The girlfriend.
The girlfriend.
That's a good one.
The girlfriend.
Yeah, because I'm not at that point yet, so I want to hear about it. Because I'm not.
Yeah.
I don't know how I'm gonna.
Again, I have these adult children that I be trying to be so respectful of, but
you gave the disclaimer.
I know I did. I know you can't come on these types of platforms and just be kind of skeeting around this situation. Ooh, again, I have daughters. I have sons. The daughters, their father. Oh my goodness, I couldn't wait until they found out who he was. I couldn't wait because I would never shit on. Can I cuss?
Yeah.
I would never shit on them.
Yeah.
I would endure all the things so that they wouldn't view their father like some piece of shit, right?
Yeah.
So I would endure all the things. But then the girlfriends
that you had to endure.
It was, come on now. Yeah. And then some of these people, where they even come from and why are they even here? You know what I mean? Like you're just doing too much. Yeah. And I'm talking about on both sides of the children, two different fathers. They both was just like running through everything. And everything It's like you got sons and that's what you showing them. You got daughters and that's what you showing them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I would try to sneak. Like if I was doing something like I'm like, well, I can't leave the house because the kids is here, so I'm gonna try to sneak.
Okay.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? You ain't gonna just come up here and just be like, oh, what's up?
I'm not free till 9 o'clock.
What's up, shawty? Like, what you doing?
And then this way, it's a free for all. You get to meet every new person
every single time. Like, who are you?
Why
are you here?
Before I do, like in my situation, I'm finding out from the kid.
Yeah, from the kid.
Yeah,
absolutely.
you talking about dropping name? Who that?
Yeah.
How long has this been going? Like, wait a minute. Like,
listen, when my two youngest were young, before we moved up to Minnesota, their dad had them and he was dropping them off, and I acted like I wasn't home, right? So I could hear him outside saying that bitch ain't answering the phone. Now you got to remember, this is in the early 90s. This is like 1991, 92, something like that, right?
Yeah.
So there's no cell phones. You know, we had pagers at the time, but it was like, if you can't get in touch with me, you just can't get in touch with me. Right. I was right there. But I think we had gotten into it earlier that it was something. And so when he was getting ready to go somewhere.
Okay.
He wanted to go somewhere and drop the kids off. And I don't think his mother said something was like that. And I just sat in the house. Like, and I heard him say, bitch, you ain't even answer the door. And I've never told him some of these things. Like, it was like I found a journal from a letter, not a journal, but a letter. Not that I was looking for it. It was in a drawer. I found a letter that he had written to this woman. Talking
about you?
This is my first baby daddy. No. Talking to her that he loved her so much and wanted to marry her. And I'm sitting here like, I got 2 kids. Like, what you doing? I thought you said and then but it was multiple. Like it was multiple. So over the years, you got to think multiple. My oldest is 35.
Yeah. This is a good question. So how much of the fathers do we see in our sons?
So I was like, so a lot.
Yeah.
A lot.
And is it scaring the hell out of you?
Yeah, and it's good and bad things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like my son is very sweet. His dad's very sweet. Like I've never considered myself a sweet person. So I feel like my son gets that from him. Very caring. But we've had a lot of talks this past summer because I feel like his dad is more of a follower, and I see that in my son, and it concerns me.
Yeah.
Particularly like, of course, all kids are going to deal with peer pressure and all that, but there'll be certain things, for example, when it comes to swimming. My son's been taking swimming lessons, so he thinks he's Michael Phelps, but I'm like, you are not, like, you're just beginning. But we went to the pool at our apartment recently. I told him like several times, you cannot go past this line. But he's the type where if his friends are like, well, come on, it's fine. Like, da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
Next thing I know, he passed the line. Yeah, your friend can swim like that, but you can't swim like that. And there's like other examples too.
Yeah.
But I was even like talking to my mom, like it concerns me, because his dad is very easily like influenced, and if it's, and there's always someone where it's like, well, I met this person and they talking this and now you found them or whatever. And I worry about that with my son, because I've always been more like I have my opinions. I'm doing this. I'm more of the leader, and it bothers me. And it's like, and I don't want to go to his dad and be like, you a follower, so that's where
that's where he's getting it from.
He a follower like you,
I was thinking that, so it's a little different for me because when you have this time frame of where your children are full adults. Like I have a 35-year-old. You said you're
which 36. Is hard for me to believe. When you said it in my mind, I was like, ain't no way.
Yeah.
Ain't no way.
So that dynamic between looking at like, you're like this person. So my twin sons are 19. I haven't been really around their dad to know whatever version he is today.
Yes.
Oh, that's a good point.
And so you have that time when you all were together, you have that version of that person.
Yep. That's good.
And so if you say those things to your children, you really, you haven't had the opportunity to, you're right, it's outdated. So you don't have the opportunity to really correct what you're saying because you don't really know.
Yes.
So co-parenting for me ended when they went to go live with their dad.
Yeah.
And I say that because I was like, and he had he ended up getting married. This time. And so
I knew there was something.
he ended up getting married. And I was like, first of all, the calls were coming in. They didn't do this. And I'm like, they don't live here. They live with you. And y'all figure that out, So it became that. But it still was me, like, being a parent when we were together. Being a parent, being, when we were talking on the phone or texting. I was always text them, like, just whatever you do, just be excellent at it. Because there was a lot of complaints about they not keeping their room clean and stuff like that. So I would just try to embed excellence in them. Like, just think, whatever you do, if you're doing the dishes, do it with excellence. If you clean the bathroom, do it with excellence. So anytime that they would get in trouble about something, I would be like, just do it with excellence. That's all I had. I was not invested in it like that. You know what I mean? Like, what more can I say?
Right.
Because if y'all was over here, get it up. Get it up, or whatever, But so we have to be mindful of projecting old behaviors, and we don't know if we don't know. Now, if we know, and that's just what it is, that's just what it is.
Unfortunately,
but we can't project our experiences from the past, especially when we're not in those types of relationships with them anymore.
That's so good. Yeah. It's so important that we remember the man who you dated is not necessarily the man who is the father.
Right.
My son's father is an amazing father. If I had the opportunity to say, and of course I can say, but if I could say to my son, if there's some things that I could do to ensure that you will be a good dad, I am absolutely 100% okay with the model that he has, like in his father. Now, when I say to him about how I want you to show up as a man in a relationship, based on my experience, I would choose some different things about his father's characteristics at that time. But so I think it is extremely important to remember that some of the information that we have about our children's fathers is outdated. And so to spew that or to share that or to keep reiterating that, who he was at that time is not appropriate because it's not current. It's not current information. Right. So giving that man the opportunity to now grow and to be who he is, because we've had the opportunity to grow. And nobody's necessarily pointing out, well, your mama used to be, and what your mama used to do.
My kids clown me. They clown me. They be like, Ma, you used to.
But did they get that information from their dad?
No, they got it from me.
Oh,
that's when we talked about that at your launch party. That was part of me realizing that I had to check myself on a whole lot of things, and my kids definitely reminded me, like, Mom, you did some crazy stuff. You was not all put together all the time. Yes. You think you was. Like, you may be now, because they tell me, they used to tell me years ago, you been listening to Iyanla again.
Like, you doing too much.
Yeah, you been, because, I was in my, Iyanla, she literally is the GOAT.
No, Iyanla helped me a lot.
Yes, she just I know her, free.
Yeah.
No, go back and listen to all those episodes.
It's still relevant.
Some free therapy sessions.
It's some eye-opening, awakening.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, moments.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. No.
One of my favorite quotes of Iyanla is to have the courage to do good when no one is watching. I've held that. I've heard her say that, and I've held on to that. And I think that's so fitting when we're talking about, our experience with our, children's fathers and just having the courage to do good when no one's watching, like not speaking of them negatively, giving our children the opportunity to learn who their other parent is, not downing them for resembling characteristics and personality traits of that other person. And those whole things of like, oh, you've been at your dad's house all week and now you come home and now, you acting just like him. You look just like him. You talk like him. And how that makes them feel about who they are, their own identity. When it's like, when I see things in you that resemble that person and I don't necessarily like them right now, if I further perpetuate that, then that doesn't make you feel good in your identity and who you are. It's good stuff. So we've been talking. I want to make sure that we, as we're wrapping up, talk a little bit about the hard parts of being a boy mom. Like, what is the one thing that you're like, you know what? It's because I'm a woman and this is a young man. We're just not, the cylinders aren't on the same page. The wires are crossing. What has been the hard part?
For me, I don't want to say hard, just interesting.
Yeah.
Because I am a boy mom and a girl mom. So it's hard to just be like, I'm a boy mom. If you don't have daughters, you have to always include you parenting them all. But there's a different type of emotion that comes when you're dealing with your daughters than when you're dealing with your sons. And I found that, and then also the twin sons are the last. So it's the, y'all get everything. Y'all she just let y'all do whatever y'all want to do. If I would have did that, Mom would have smacked me across the room. And it's like, no, I would still smack them across the room, but I'm going to give them a chance first, which I didn't do before. It would just be like, it's my way or no way. Now it's just like, well, let's talk about it. Different kind of parent, just like with a different type of dad. You could be a different type of parent. So I'm a different type of parent. But when I look at them and some of the and then there's just all this technology today. It's just a different time. But when I think about my sons and like when they call and say, like the other day, Mom, I need my Social Security card. I'm like, what you need your Social Security card for? Because I keep all their stuff because they always losing it. So the first thing was, what do you need that for? Then I had to
dial back,
and say, okay, Like, do you need the physical copy or do you need a photo?
Right.
Like, what do you
Yeah.
then I said, what would you need? Because what you need it for now turns into, do you need a photo of it or do you need the physical copy? But I knew that it would translate into you just in my business or something. You know what I'm saying? So it has to be that. That's what it's like for me. It's like
you're treading lightly.
Treading lightly.
Them the leeway to grow up.
Yes.
And with that, still, I'm trying to protect you as mom.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then the not the constant, but how do I do this? You know, how do I do this? Like I've had to sit step by step by step by step by step. And I don't even mind doing that because if you're asking, that means you don't know.
Yep.
That means you need some assistance and some help. And so I will guide them probably a little bit more than I've done, you know, with the others. But I just think they're the last of the Mohicans and they just get the better treatment. It's really as simple as that.
In that vein, I'm curious to know, so like in the beginning when they were younger and like dad was calling you for support about certain things, how likely would it be that now that they're young adults that you would ask him to help you parent them at this stage?
Who, me?
Yeah.
I wouldn't have that
You
conversation.
wouldn't. Okay. Yeah.
We don't talk like that.
Okay.
Who, me?
We don't talk like that. But here's the thing. I'm not the type of person. I'm not opposed to it. It's just not.
Yeah, based on how you guys.
Yeah, it's just there's no reason for us to do that. However, if a circumstance pops up or a situation arises, we've had to come together and be like, okay, well, what is this? Okay, okay, let's figure this out.
Yeah.
You know, we've had to do that. But now, no. But if it comes to that, yes.
Yeah. The hardest part for me, as I was sitting here thinking, like, what would that be for me? The hardest part for me of being a boy mom has been grooming and physical presence.
See, I didn't even think of that.
That has been difficult for me, and I didn't know that it would be. So I still reminisce on when I dressed my son, when I cut his hair how I wanted it to be, and how cute he was.
Took him to the barber that you wanted to take him to.
And how amazing he looked, and how well put together he was all the time. It was just, it was a part of who I was as a parent. And once he got to high school, I feel like it was the latter part of the junior year. And he started to just be like, well, yeah, I didn't get my hair cut. Or, yeah, I'm going to get it cut next week. Or, why are you tripping about it? So what? I can, like, everybody at school ain't, you know? And so it was like he didn't care as much as I felt like I raised him to care. And that has been a really hard thing for me to let go of. Now I'm like, just do you. Do you, boo. I ain't worried about it. But y'all don't even understand how much I stalked his dad about them haircuts. It was like, listen, his hair needs to be cut. His hair needs to be cut. I still say to him, hey, you been over your dad's lately? You know, you're going to get lined up. You know, like I want my child, and he's almost 22. If I could still pick how he looked, I'm not even gonna front. And I feel like that's a boy mom type of thing. Like, I think with girls, they have more of an identity around their image and how they want to be perceived. Whereas boys, I feel like sometimes it takes them a while to grow into that, or they don't put as much emphasis on that. And I care a whole lot about that type of shit.
Yeah.
So I be biting my lip.
I know you do.
Child.
I know you do. I think I went through that, but I wasn't really bothered by it. But until because I was like, you gonna fix your hair? You're gonna do when they started growing it out, and now they want the curly. And my son, one of my sons, he has naturally curly hair. He doesn't even have to do all that, but you know, he does what he does. And then the other, I just was like, you need a haircut. Yeah. No, I'm growing it out. I'm like, okay, but in the meantime, like, get it lined up or trimmed up or something. You got to do something. No, I can't, you know, I'm like, oh man, I'll take you to, you know, I'll take you. Yeah. You know, I was offering to take you and pay for it and everything. Like,
that has been a really hard. I get it. My son is like, I think really, I honestly, I look at them sometimes and I'm like, I don't even know how I have this person who's like like so kind, so caring and accommodating of people and affirming of people and just a great heart. I couldn't have asked for a better person, right? But I just want.
I knew it was coming. I said,
But I just want.
But can I just dress you still? I still just want to put the clothes on.
You can't.
And I don't.
Right.
Yeah. And I have learned to just stop.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's been.
But I feel you though, because my son is 9, and it's like we constantly get in this conversation about deodorant. You know, I was talking to my friend, and I tell him, I'm like, okay, you're in 4th grade now, because this is when kids are when they start roasting you.
Yeah.
Okay, don't say nothing, as I told you to put this deodorant on.
Yeah.
But I was talking to my friend about this morning. I'm like, when I was a kid, my mama just didn't have to say those things, and I mean, I don't know if just being a girl, and we definitely don't want to be stank or nothing like that.
The full treatment. The boys don't even take showers and baths
like,
right. They will come out the bathroom and they're dry.
Yeah.
Like the shower turns off and then they're coming out. Like, why are you dry?
I had to send my son back in the other day. I said, ain't no way.
You see your towel all dry.
Yeah.
Did not wash up.
Like, I don't
you just was in there with the water running.
I don't get it. Like, what is the issue?
Yeah.
No, that is funny, because that is something I was just talking about this morning.
Yeah.
He was about to walk up the door. I'm like, did you put deodorant on? He go back. I'm like, I don't understand why this is a conversation.
And then you want to get mad at me because I'm reminding you to do shit that you should already be doing and know how to do.
Because as soon as he get in the car, sometimes I'd be like, I tell you, you're not the type where it's not gonna come out. You're not the type. But one thing, when you were talking about the challenges with being like a woman and raising a boy, the thing that came to mind for me is like letting go of the thought that I have to toughen him up. And I think that comes from the fact of I talked about those 3 years and his dad was in the picture. And that's something like I'm actively working on. Like I was talking about him crying and me sometimes, whereas if it was a girl, I might just whatever. But for me, I'm thinking, you know, society and the way you have to be and all this type of stuff. And I'm like, this is a new thought, to be clear. So if people see me out here slipping up, this is new. I just thought about this like 3 days ago. But that I don't have to do that.
Yeah.
I don't have to play this double role.
Yeah.
But sometimes that's a difficult thing to balance, especially if dad's not there. You know what I mean? There was just was not even an option. And then having to, like almost, I don't want to say not being the mom, but kind of, you know, like having to step into, I guess, what I assume the response would be from
like a
his dad.
societal masculine type of a space.
Yeah. But then, you know, I'm in this space of like separating like what's really worth it and then what's just like unnecessarily draining me. Because I can't.
That's good.
I'm just carrying it all.
You can't do it all.
I can't carry, you know, I can't carry it all. But that's what came to mind when we were talking. Because at first I'm like, besides the musty challenge. I'm like, what? But I'm like, that too.
Right. It's resisting the urge to try to like toughen them up.
Yeah. And then I'm like, and why do I feel that way? And a lot of it is fear. That's really what it is. A lot of it is the fear of me obviously not being there when you're out in the world, when you're, you know, 19 and all that type of stuff, and trying to prepare you for that. But I'm trying to also figure out how to balance that more. So that is a real time challenge for me.
Yeah. I want to say this though. The good and the beautiful thing about having sons and being a boy mom is that when they come to you and say how they are so proud of you.
Yes. Oh my God, yeah.
Or like, I can't wait to do something nice for you. Like when I get older, I'm a buy you a Lamborghini.
They're so
and I'm like, who told you I wanted a Lamborghini though? Right. Like, first of all, we didn't have that conversation. But they have this now. That in turn they have this protection over you. Yeah, that is just so different than anything else. Like your son.
That's real.
So when he's, you know, of age and can look back, it's like he'll remember most of those experiences and then just love you in a whole nother way.
Yeah.
That's real.
That's so true. That's so true. Because I feel like we've all talked about instances of our sons being very affirming and very protective. And it's so funny because my friend, her daughter. Like one day my son came and gave me a hug. Now they're like maybe a couple years apart though. And I remember she was like, can I get a hug? She was like, no. And my friend was like, well, see that she don't, and then when we came in town, he was hugging her. She's his gal mom. And so he was hugging her and stuff. And she was like, oh, I just love this. Cause she don't do this at all. But I'm like, I feel like girls like kind of cut that off earlier. Like I don't remember being like that with my mom. She says I was a younger age, but I think that's kind of also the thing that I love about being a boy mom because they are so loving and affectionate, and it lasts a little longer. I think. Maybe what do you think?
Well,
you got both.
Well, it depends on the kid. Like every kid is different. The twins are different. The two sets of twins are different. Did you know I had two sets of twins?
No, until you said it. I was like, first of all, I was shocked you said you had a 30. I'm still processing that you have a 35-year-old. Let's be clear. But yeah, no, you said twins. I was like,
I know. That's how I got to smother of six.
That makes it. That'll do it.
That's how I got it.
That'll do it.
That'll do it.
I don't know what I was saying.
You're talking about the differences between the kids.
Oh, I'm saying because you have so many. It's hard to have a conversation about one kid. And you're not bringing all the rest of them. Like I don't even know their names. They just
the kids.
They know. I say. I'd be like, Jasmine Torres, you know what I'm talking about. I'll just list their names, but they're all so very different. So it's hard for me to have a conversation just specifically about boy moms. But the girls, like my oldest daughter, me and her share the same birthday. So we're like, we the same, we the same thug, right? Not that we're thugs. We're not thugs, but you know what I mean. Like we're the same. We have the same energy. We have the same
My mom
drive.
and I are a day apart.
We have the same, so many different things. And so we see each other in a different way. And then my twin daughters, they're very different. And then, one of them is like, just like one more like me. And then the other one is, she's gonna be, she's like the sweet one, the, demure, and she's such a sweetheart. All my kids are sweethearts, but she's a sweetheart. You know what I mean? And then the boys are like so different, but they're the youngest again. Because it all goes back to just different scenarios for me with them. I can't really put a pinpoint on it because I got too many kids.
Right.
No. Y'all got one and one, and I'm like, I got 6 to go through.
Listen, girl, I was like 1 and done. But so I want to say, first and foremost, like, I think after this episode, it feels like we need a boy moms / just a parent support group, because we could just go on and on and on and talk about everything that we've experienced. And I thank you guys so much for being here today. We have to have a part 2.
Yes. We have to have a part 2 because there was so much we talked about even before this, or things we were like, we got to go in at a different time. We definitely, because we ended up having even more like similarities, you know what I mean, than... Well, obviously, it's our first time meeting.
But we didn't even address the fact that you sometimes it's difficult to really get transparent because, again, for me, it's like you're still protecting that other person. And it's like, no, this is my version of what happened. And that is just what that is. If you want to come on the podcast and talk about your version, then you do that.
But you can't because you don't know her. just to be clear. That invitation is not,
and so that's just what it is. And I've been respectful throughout my journey. And so if I tell a story or two, it's true. It's not like I'm on here fabricating anything. So it's all good.
And can I just say one little thing? Just on that though, because so many times we do that. We could say so much.
We could say so much. We could say,
like with my situation, he went on Facebook, told a whole lie of the reason how the restraining order.
Of course.
And I saw it like it was a good thing I didn't see when he posted it. But I could have, I could have said, but it was like, what is that even going to do? But I just wanted to just throw that in. Maybe that's a part 2 conversation about how being often we don't say anything, and but how much that can weigh on you. You know what I mean? But anyway.
But when he gets older. And he decides to kiki with you. You gonna like it. You gonna like it. You gonna like it.
Tell you about
you gonna be sitting there like, really?
Like, listen, let me tell you a story or two. We done had some good fun doing the kiki. Because and the good thing is, my son's father and I feel like we've been friends for many years. I think we're in a space now at our age and stage and just the way life is happening that our friendship is evolving into something different. But there was a point in time where our son would spend a lot of time with the both of us and get to hear old stories and get to hear us talk shit about who did what and why it happened and laugh about it. So he's been privy to, who we were before him.
That's so
and
good.
What our
though.
relationship was like.
That
and
is
so
so
he gets
good.
to hear. Yeah.
That's good because I still don't really know.
Yeah.
What I know, I just know how they met. I know just little parts, but I think it's good. Just even the conversation of who I was before. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like my mom, of course, we talk about a lot, but I think even just I don't know what their journey looked like.
Yep.
I don't know what their, all I know, like I said, is how they met, and then.
Yeah. And that context is important because sometimes it informs our own relationship.
Sometimes.
Yeah, my kids told me something their dad said. I said, I know you don't believe that. He's just being silly. Like, I just know you don't believe that.
Right. Like, that ain't who I am.
Yeah.
Yeah. See,
come on now.
My son and his dad totally have me pegged. Like, they'll have a whole conversation like, well, your mom gonna say this and she's gonna make this noise and she gonna act like this, and then they'll laugh with each other.
Yeah, they kiki about you.
Yeah.
And then my son and I do that about him.
Yeah.
But I think it sounds like it's a mutual respect. Though.
It is.
That, it's not I'm talking about your, it's and then stuff that you can laugh about, like
absolutely.
I do that. Okay, but I know. It's great that there's that friendship there, between you and your son's, father. It really is like you're still family at the end of the day.
That's
it. And that support is so important if you can achieve
family.
That.
It's family.
It's family. So I think, and one thing I just want to say, it's not a shameless plug for me. I'm plugging the book.
Yeah.
But one thing that I've learned, and I'm still going through it.
Yes,
so two things. One, I realized it's definitely a guidebook, but I realized for me it was more about me.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like I just wanted to say that to you, actually, just more of a thank you, because when I got the book, I definitely thought I was a little bit different in the co-parenting journey than I was, but he was not in the picture again. So I ended up going back to the book recently because something happened and it triggered me.
Yeah.
And I had to go back to like, why am I so upset about this? Because it shouldn't really be that upsetting.
Yep.
And I had to like go back, and then more so of the parts where it talks about like you and like what can you really control in your, about yourself. I can't control them. So how can I control how I'm responding to this? And why am I responding to this?
Yep.
So I just want to say I'm using it in real time.
I love it.
I'm using it in real time. It's on my bookshelf, and I would do some exercise, and I pull it when something happened. Like, this was like, just like I said, a couple weeks ago. And I was like, I could not figure it out. Yep. And I was like, wait, the book talked about this, but I didn't finish that page. Let me go to it.
Yep.
And that helped me.
Yes.
So and I think the reason I say it too is I think it will help building the friendship or building some of that trust back and stuff like that. It's just me knowing, like, no matter how I'm going into it, I'll feel okay coming out of it because of how, I approach the situation. So,
I love that.
You said thanking us for coming on, but I want to thank you because the tools work.
Yeah.
So if you're watching, you're listening, whatever cameras, get the book. That camera? Get it, okay? Because it works. Okay, the book works. Okay, I thought I was further along. I was like, okay, I'm gonna look at this, and I'll probably be like, okay, I did. Listen, I still have work to do.
Yeah. And what I loved, and part of why I wrote it the way I did, is because you really can pick it up at any time on any page and get something from it. You don't have to read it from cover to cover. You can just jump right in, like, okay, I just need to feel like I hear my homegirl telling me something right now when I'm going through this thing.
Yeah.
And that is why It's Not Complicated is written the way it is.
It's not even complicated.
It's not complicated.
It's really not. And it is written in a way where it does feel like your homegirl is talking to you and like giving you some real stuff. It's not it's okay, but with you.
Yep.
Okay, but how are you showing
at
up in
you.
this
Yep.
space? How are you, like, why are things happening this way, or why are you maybe reacting this way, because you can't control another person. And so I think it just helps with that kind of accountability and also reassurance, though, that like you do have this. You know, we all got work to do. So yeah, it is something you could just pick up, and we all need those tools and resources to go back to. So get the book. Okay?
I love that. I can't think of a better way.
Shut it down.
Close it all.
14.
Yeah.
Drop the mic.
That's what I do.
The motherfucking book.
That's what I do.
Boom.
I won't drop the. I'll drop the invisible because I would mess that. Drop the water bottle.
Listen, you guys, thank you so much for tuning in to episode 14. Boy, moms. Woo! We have to dive in again for a part 2, 3, 4. I don't know. These might be my new co-hosts because we had such a good time. I want to leave you guys on a really important note today. That was a takeaway from me. What your relationship was like with your son's father is completely different than who he is as a father. Give that man an opportunity to show up in his fatherhood and not hold him accountable forever for who he was or was not in the relationship with you. This has been Co-Parenting Confessions. I love y'all. Peace out.
Peace out.